Assume you are familiar with handling a dead car battery. It should restart with a straightforward jump start, but what happens if it doesn't? You are dealing with more serious problems than you initially thought when the car won't start with a jump. In this video, we assess the most common reasons why a battery won't jump. We also demonstrate to you how to resolve every problem. Bad connection. If the battery is in good shape, there might be an issue with how the jumper cables or battery terminals are connected. Check for corrosion by looking at the connectors and terminals. Luckily, there's a simple solution to this issue. Baking soda and water can be used to remove the corrosion. Before attempting to jump it once more, make sure everything is secure by reconnecting the jumper cables and battery. Dead car battery. The most common causes of the problems are either a short circuit, which could result in an electrical malfunction, or a completely dead battery with a defective battery cell. If the battery cannot be recharged, the jump start will not function. Smaller jumper cables won't be sufficient if the battery cannot receive power because they can't charge the bad battery with the good battery for an extended period. You likely observed signs of a dead battery, like the headlights getting dimmer or the start time extending. To determine if the battery can no longer be jump started, your neighborhood auto parts store or repair facility will bench test it. Bad neutral safety switch. When your car isn't in park or neutral, the automatic transmission's neutral safety switch prevents it from starting. On the other hand, if the neutral safety switch malfunctions, your vehicle may receive a false reading and the engine cannot start. To see if it begins with that adjustment, you can try switching to neutral. If not, it might be challenging to diagnose a neutral safety switch failure. Bad jumper cables. Don't ignore the apparent and think you have a more serious problem. Your cheap, thin jumper cables may just not work well for you. To help the battery charge the defective battery, you should also try leaving the battery cables connected for roughly 5 minutes before attempting to start the device. The cables can break over time, even if you have a good set, especially if you don't take care of them. Instead, try using a different set of cables or a portable jump starter. Malfunctioning starter. The starter is what starts the engine when the key is inserted into the ignition. The starter cranks because power is transferred from the battery to it. Even if you attempt to jumpstart the battery, you won't be able to start the engine if the starter starts to fail. The starter will most likely fail, as indicated by a clicking sound. Defective alternator. Even if an alternator malfunction does not result in this issue right away, it might cause your car to shut down soon after the jumper cables are removed. By itself, the battery is ineffective. The alternator powers your car's electrical system while the engine is running and is in charge of maintaining its charge. The battery won't be refilled if the alternator breaks down. No matter how many times you jump it, as soon as the juice runs out, the battery will die once more. Many people mistakenly confuse the symptoms of a dead battery with those of a malfunctioning alternator. On the other hand, your neighborhood auto parts store can test the alternator. Troubleshoot a car that won't jump start. Check cables and connections. In case the battery appears to be depleted, make sure to inspect the jumper cables. The rubber covering on the cables may have warmed up, which would increase resistance and prevent current flow. Try utilizing a different set of jumper cables or use a box instead. Additionally, you ought to examine the battery terminals more closely. You are looking at corrosion if the battery has green or chalky white materials on it. The corrosion may prevent your battery from receiving the necessary charge. Allow the battery to recharge. Give the jump starter cables a few minutes to sit before attempting to start the car again. The dead battery is getting a little charge while the functioning car is operating. It can be challenging to restart when the battery is extremely weak. The required electrical power cannot be obtained from the cables alone, but a few minutes should be sufficient. Perform systems checks. It's time to start looking at the main systems to see where the problem might be if everything else has failed. There aren't many significant systems that might be the source of a no-crank condition. Contrary to popular belief, a clogged filter or a spark plug problem won't make you believe the battery is dead. The engine will still crank in both scenarios, but it won't start. To try and start the car right away, you could try shifting into neutral. If so, this suggests a malfunction with the neutral safety switch. Before proceeding, make sure the battery is in good condition by testing or installing a new one. If not, you should have a bench test done on the starter to see if it's the source of your issues. You will have to call a mechanic for assistance when everything else fails. More diagnostics may be required than you can complete on your own. Tow the car to a reliable location, then cross your fingers